I think the thought process is if we're regulated, then it will all be fine. And it's like, it's probably not going to make any difference at
No, I
all.
used to think it would. So I was one of those people that were all for regulation. And then I looked into regulation. And the problem with regulation is that it's regulated usually by people who have a massive conflict of interest because they have their own businesses in that industry. But also, anyone can wake up one day and decide they are the regulator of the industry. Yeah, we see that all the time. So a good example of this is there were some people, some coaches that were saying that they had a coaching qualification that you could do, and that it was regulated by, I can't remember what it was called, let's say like the coaching industry regulator of the UK. And so I was like, oh, that's amazing. Like it's a good regulator, it's regulated. So I then went and looked up the regulator, which no one ever does, and found that it was just owned by the same people. So they just made a regulator so that they could say they were regulated. Like the regulation is not going to solve all our problems. The only thing solving our problems is us deciding we want to do things differently.
Yeah. And we can't do that by ourselves. Hence why we created this podcast. Hence why we are trying so hard to get this message out and get so many different guests on this podcast from different perspectives. So like we have people like you from the business world, and obviously dog trainers and dog professionals in other kind of fields of the dog world. And it's trying to like find out opinion, first of all, like where does this all come from, how things are at the moment, how is that formed, like what's the, how has that been built, and how can we start to almost like, we want to smash it down and rebuild the whole thing, but I'm not sure how extreme it can be, but almost that's what needs to happen.